Welcome to the Empowered Podcast, episode number 84. I'm excited to share this episode today. One of my friends that I met a year ago, over a year ago, you'll hear that story coming up. But today's podcast is all about possibilities. It's the possibility that we can take what we know, what you know right now. Maybe it's what you're doing in your normal day job, or maybe it's the hobbies that you've been working on and this expertise that you've been honing on the side for the last couple of years, whatever it is. Or maybe it's just something fun. Maybe it's something that you have a quick, easy talent for. We can take that and turn it into something that will help us pay the bill, something that will help us make some side money, fund our side hustle, if you will. And that's the focus of today. It's a world of possibilities out there. I am living proof that you can go from having no presence online. I didn't even have a Twitter account, by the way, when I started. Having no presence online, not knowing anything about what it is that these entrepreneurs are doing, or these bloggers or podcasters are doing, and turning that into something that makes money and that gives your life, I don't want to say meaning and purpose, because that sounds a little bit corny, and it also implies that your life now doesn't have any meaning and purpose. But I'm a happier person now that I work for myself and don't have to go into a work environment where I'm miserable. I see things differently. I get to hang out with Ashley, my wife, whenever she gets home from work. We can sometimes go catch a matinee movie together. Just that my world is completely different than it was 2 years ago. And all of that comes from part of the conversation that we talk about today with my guest today. And it's a world of possibilities out there. You can do what you want to do if you're willing to put in the work. And I think that's where a lot of people make the mistake. They think it's going to be overnight successes, and they don't want to put in the work that will allow them to make the transition from, like Carrie Oberbrunner says, from day job to dream job. So if that's where you are, put in the work. And if you are thinking about it, it's possible. Whatever you want to do, it's possible. Before we go into the episode, I want to mention two things. I was working with one of my masterminds this morning, and we're talking about repurposing content. You know, we so many times we think we have to come up with a completely new blog post idea. We have to come up with a new podcast episode or something like that. But if you think about the idea for the next post or the next episode that you have in your head, the project that you're working on right now, you probably could come up with at least 2 or 3 other ideas that complement the one that you are working on. Whether it's a different perspective, whether it's a parallel perspective, or from a different point of view, or an argument for or against, think about those ideas, and all of a sudden you can create more content from one single idea. And I'll link to it in the show notes. But if you go to empoweredpodcast.com/84, by the way, you'll get those show notes. But I came up with a idea web that I use to create more ideas. And when you're sitting there trying to come up with new things, or even if it's just new products, if you want to make a physical product for your side hustle, you know, think about all the complementary things. It's like all the cases for cell phones. When they started coming up with the cell phones, they didn't think about all the other accessories necessarily that would come out 4 or 5 years later. And those accessories are billion-dollar industries probably in and of themselves. And we can create that same thing with the content or the things that we are creating, those parallel, those contrasting perspectives, those complementary things. And the second thing that I want to share with you is, you have heard me talk a lot about masterminds on the show. And check out howtostartamastermind.com. I want you to check it out, howtostartamastermind.com. It's something that I'm putting together. There's a pre-release, pre-order price for that, and I'm finding people all over, literally the world. I looked at a guy's profile in Athens, Greece, just a couple hours ago, and people all over the world are wanting to get involved with masterminds. They see the power of them. They know how valuable a mastermind is to their success and what they want to achieve. But they don't know exactly what to do. I was talking to a friend in San Antonio, and she called me up And she's asking about the technology that's behind it. How do we host all the documents? And, what do we do when we get all together? We know who we want, but we don't know how to facilitate these meetings. What's the best way to do that? How do we keep getting people moving forward? Those kinds of things. If you have those questions, check out How to Start a Mastermind, and I think you'll like what you see there. Have an awesome day. Kick back, kick your feet up, grab your coffee, a pen and paper, and let's talk with Nick Loper of Side Hustle Nation. Let's go right into the episode. Thank you for tuning into this episode of the Empowered Podcast. I'm here with my friend, a fellow podcaster, fellow entrepreneur, and someone I met at a swanky bar in a casino in Las Vegas. My friend Nick Loper, who is can we call you the chief side hustler, Nick? Is that
chief side hustler? I like it. Gosh, I remember. It was I remember that's where we were at that one lobby bar at the Rio. I met Ellery and Ashley there. It was a ton of fun.
Yeah, what was the name of that? It was like the Sky Bar or something, and I was thrown off because it's on the ground floor, whatever it's called. Do you remember?
Yeah, you're right. It might have a confusing name.
But we were there, of course, for New Media Expo in 2014, and I didn't know you. I didn't know a whole lot of people that I met there and have become friends with since. But since it was about a year and a half ago, we've chatted a few times. Your blog has just exploded. Maybe it was pretty awesome back then too, but I've seen it grow. I've seen your podcast grow, and you're doing some amazing things. And the more I learn about you, Nick, the more excited I am to be able to feature your story to the members today in the podcast in the future, and just learn from you so that we can take what you have done, take some of the success that you have built for yourself, and replicate that for us as well.
Yeah, you bet. Not so much about my story, but how this can apply to everybody who's listening.
Yes, but I want to know your story. That's one of the questions that we had. So to give everybody some background, I'll hit on some of the high points, and you can fill in the details, Nick. You separated, left, somehow found yourself working full-time for yourself in 2008. So it's 2015 now. The easy math is that's roughly 7 years. And you blog, podcast, you have books on Amazon. You sell products on your site now, which I noticed you had T-shirts. I don't know if they're mugs and other things, but
oh my god, I made zero sales from that. Like, that's one of my biggest, side hustle busts. I was like, people are always searching, because hustle. I think hustle related quotes was one of the top search terms that people were arriving onto my site. And so I was like, yeah, if I can make some hustle swag, like T-shirts and stuff, that, because I set it up through Spreadshirt, and that'll get indexed because it will be indexed on their own site. Maybe people browsing, this site will buy anything. Like, a horrible waste of time. I spent so much time trying to figure out how to make high resolution, transparent graphics and put them on these shirts and stuff. But that one's been a bust. I will own up to that one. But
nice. Well, that's one of the things that I know you talk about on your blog. You do projects. You try to create these physical products, and then if they work, you tell your audience, and if they don't work, you also share that, which is kind of cool. So take us back to that maybe 2007 time frame, 2008. Do you mind telling us how you made that transition? What took you from, hey, I've got the W-2 and I'm employing Nick, to now I am doing what I'm doing now? Can you explain that for us?
Sure. So the business I was running at the time, the business I ran for a lot of years, was a footwear comparison shopping site. So it was like a Next Tag or a Price Grabber. I think Google Shopping has taken over all of these little comparison shopping sites, but it was a big deal back in the day, because hey, I want to, before I just went to Amazon, I would actually search, hey, what has the best price? Now I just go to Amazon. But what it was, so it was called shoesniper.com, and the earlier version of it, the 2006, 2007 version of it, was called shoesrus.net. and it was a catalog aggregator. So it would take the catalogs from Zappos, from Amazon, from really a couple dozen other online footwear retailers, mash them all together, and spit back out the best price for that pair of shoes. And the way the site was monetized was those stores would send a commission to me, or a finder's fee to me, for every sale that was referred through the site.
Okay.
And so that was the vehicle. That was my original side hustle. That was the vehicle that let me quit my job in 2008. I was working corporate for Ford Motor Company.
Oh, okay. So you're working for Ford, and then you started, what'd you say it was, shoesniper.net. That was your first one.
Yeah, it eventually turned into Shoe Sniper.
Okay. So there's a lot of debate, and I'm sure you and I've actually talked about this at some point, but there's a question of, do you follow your passion? I talk a lot about, what do you want to be known for? What's the impact that you want to have on the world? Do you follow that, or do you find something that will, I don't want to say make you the quick buck, but let's face it. I mean, these things cost money. Do you follow your passion, or do you follow something that will help you pay the bills?
Well, this may be a do as I say, not as I do kind of thing, because I have zero
those everywhere.
I have zero interest in shoes. Was probably my own worst customer, but at the same time, it was a really exciting business to run. It was a fun game to play, to try and to try and drive traffic from it, to try and tweak the different advertising, to have my first experience in outsourcing, both for web development and for a full-time hire in terms of a virtual assistant to kind of processize some of this stuff, to run the live chat customer service, to do the daily database maintenance. All of that aspect of it, the product was secondary. I didn't care about the shoes, but the systems and all that stuff was a ton of fun, because you could see the direct impact of your effort to the bottom line. If I hustled and spent the full day on Sunday working on the business, I could see the benefits of that all week, versus in my day job, it's such a big company, if I didn't show up, nothing would really happen. It wouldn't make any difference to them.
Can you tell us what you did at Ford, or is that a little too far back?
No, that's fine. I worked in their parts and service division, and interfacing with their dealers. So it was kind of a third consultative work, how can we increase your service and parts business? Maybe a third customer service. How can we take care of your customers that are less than thrilled with their cars or with their service experience? And maybe a third sales. How can we move more Ford parts through the shop? Did
what you learned doing that prepare you for this? It sounds like, I don't want to say they're both kind of behind the scenes work, but it sounds a lot of database and numbers and tracking information and using it, blah, 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 blah. Do you feel like that helped you with your side hustle with Shoe Sniper?
They were pretty unrelated,
Okay.
Pretty much completely separate. My boss at one point, was very, he knew about the business, and so it was fine, but he's just you're never going to be an all-star. And I was like,
oh, thanks.
That stings. Shouldn't you be trying to coach me to become that all-star? But he's because he knew I had other things going on, and maybe he was trying to drive me out or whatever. Which
you'll never be an all-star, says the middle manager, right?
Yeah, I was like, which it kind of stung at the time, because it's you want to do your best, and you want to, be the best you can be at whatever you're working on. But it's I just don't see myself climbing the ladder. So there was a lot of truth to that. And maybe he saw that, this guy doesn't necessarily want to be here. He doesn't want to be a lifer. So
what I'm going to pull up, I'm going to do a Google search for Shoe Sniper. What happened to that website? What happened to that business?
So the business played in the margin between the cost of traffic and the value of that traffic. And over the years, that became a gap that was narrower and narrower. So it was very heavily reliant on paid traffic from Google AdWords, from Bing advertising, all keyword based. And then on the revenue side, what are the retailers going to pay for for those sales, and those kind of started to get squeezed and squeezed and squeezed. So finally in the summer of last year, 2014, it's like, look, this is, I'm going to make it up on volume, but it was just, I couldn't figure out how to get it fixed. So I ended up just releasing the site back to the developers, because, for the last, like, in hindsight, I should have sold it, a few years ago, because, websites are sold on a multiple of monthly profit. And for the last few months, it had been going backwards. It had been, barely breaking even or not making any money at all. And so I wasn't in a position to be able to sell it. And it was going to take, additional, thousands of dollars of investment to try and, make some tweaks to try and get it. And it's just like, look, I've seen the trend, I've seen the decline, and it's just not, again, not a subject that I'm necessarily interested in. So I think it's time to cut ties and focus on some other projects. And luckily by that time had built up some other businesses, some other different diversified streams.
So is Shoe Sniper generating revenue now?
No. I don't own it anymore. The developers have taken ownership of it. I don't know. I haven't looked at the site. I don't know if they've done anything with it. I think I need to ask them to remove my mug from the About page.
Yes. Thank you for visiting shoesniper.com. My name is Nick Loper, and I've been in the shoe game since 2004. Do you still make Al Bundy still make Al Bundy jokes about having strange shoe fetishes?
Yeah, I'm going to have to send those guys a note to get rid of me on that page.
Yeah, it's funny. I mean, the site is still live. It looks pretty good. Just looking at some of the traffic ranks, doesn't seem like there's a whole lot of people sending traffic to it anymore. But we've all started projects, or if you, I don't know that you can get very far in this online business without starting projects that ultimately fail. And not to say that that Shoe Sniper failed, but I have built sites that have generated essentially no revenue. And whether you call that a failure or a learning experience or something like that, would you agree you could not be doing what you're doing today if you had not set up businesses that failed?
Right, absolutely. And I mean, this was one that hit, and there are, half a dozen others in the graveyard that no one never saw the light of day. Like I tried to build like a wine site, because I saw like this other site I thought was kind of cool, and I know nothing about wine other than I occasionally like to drink it. And so the content ended up just being like this nonsense reworded crap from what other people had written. And it was like, what's the point of this? It was just like, it was a blatant attempt to build a site to make money, and not there was no reason for anyone to come and visit this site. Like there was no unique selling proposition. There was no unique value there. And so of course, no one did come, and it was horrible.
Well, two questions that leads me to, Nick, is one, how do you know if you build a site and it's generating revenue, getting traffic, and you got the e-commerce element? If you've got that, when do you sell? How do you know at what point you need to sell? And the second question is, we've both talked about just sites or projects or products that have kind of fallen flat. How do you know which idea to pursue, which website to build and create? So again, the first one is how do you know when to sell? The second question is how do you know which ones to pursue and which ones to just kind of I'll forget about it?
Yeah, that's a tough question. Because obviously, the hindsight was I should have unloaded this site in several years ago. But kind of in naivete, you're just like, hey, this thing up until this point is still growing, and I can keep growing this thing. I can keep, pushing this, in perpetuity. This is going to be my thing. And it turned out that it wasn't going to be my thing. And that's okay. So I guess if I'm looking for a formula of when to sell, when to get out, would be, if you can still show that, growth, because that's what buyers are going to be looking for. And when you have something else going on, because I could have sold it, I could have gotten a one-time lump some payment, but probably the next day I would have been stressed out about like, well, that was great, but where's the next month?
Do you remember what that lump sum might have been?
Oh my gosh. If I sold at the very peak, times say even 12 months earnings or 20 months earnings on empireflippers.com. Let's see. Oh, that could have been a very healthy six-figure paid,
Nice.
Six-figure payday.
Live and learn, right?
I know, gosh. Instead, I just was like, fine, get it off my hands. I'm sick of dealing with it.
Well, I've listened to the Empire Flippers podcast, I think once or twice. I don't even remember their names, but I've started seeing their ads on Facebook. And was it empireflippers.com if anybody wants to check it out? Is that what they are?
Yeah, so they're a brokerage for buying and selling sites, a little bit more curated than on something like Flippa, and it's a little bit less of just a wild, wild west crapshoot. So, the sites have gone through some vetting process, and they're generally, between $5,000 and $100,000. So, it's an interesting way to start generating cash flow pretty much immediately. You're basically buying somebody else's business, and whether or not you can, continue to grow that. Like I actually bought a site from them last year, about a year ago. It was going great, and then it got hammered with a Google update, and haven't touched it since. And I need to figure out how to recover it or what. I've just got to cut losses on that.
I was going to ask that question too. Is how much of an impact did things like Amazon and you mentioned it before, Tony Hsieh's company, Zappos. How much did that kill that part of your business? Just them expanding into everything?
No, that was fine. So we still narrowed it down on the footwear side. Amazon was a great advertiser. Zappos was a great advertiser. They Zappos, because they run a very expensive business model with free shipping and free returns and free like overnight shipping for a lot of people. They were trying to cut costs, and so they kept kind of cutting or chipping away on their partner payouts. So that was one of many factors. They definitely weren't the only store to do that.
Okay. So how do you decide which projects to pursue? How do you figure out where you spend your time, doing these various side hustles?
I used to stress about not having, what's the next idea? What am I going to do next? And now there's more ideas through, just talking to different people on the podcast and stuff. And I think you'll probably find the same thing. It's like there's definitely no shortage of different things to work on.
Yeah.
So really, it's kind of a combination of things. I'm thinking now, what can I use as a case study? Like, what do I want to try out that I can then turn around and share with Side Hustle Nation? So like today, I wrote a post, or I published a post on like my Udemy course launch. Soup to nuts, everything I did to outline, create the course, film it. Launch it, market it, and everything like that. And it kind of stemmed from a couple different conversations I have with people who've done really well on Udemy. And I was like, man, this doesn't seem like that hard a code to crack. I had to be able to figure this out, because my first course was horrible. Like, it didn't, it was a total dud. I think it's made like $300 over the course of the year. Like it hasn't done anything. Whereas this one has done, pretty well, made 3,500 or so in the first couple months. And it's just, kind of these experiments to try and I'm trying to be better about focusing on one at a time. Because like my to-do list is like, a million things long, and they're all, very diverse, different projects. Trying to focus on one at a time. And just what has you most excited, and what is the most likely to earn dollars in the near term? Because I don't know if your listeners or your members are primarily full-time people or they're primarily part-time people. And I think if you have a full-time job, you're in a unique position, because unless that job is like just completely sucking the life out of you, like you don't necessarily need to earn revenue right away. So you can focus on some more speculative projects like building this website, building this blog podcast that might take some time to build up an audience and eventually monetize, or to, create this. So you spend a month writing your book, spend a month creating your Udemy course. Like you're in a unique position. Whereas if you are in that soul sucking job or you need to make rent next month, I think there are some faster paths to earn revenue, and that would probably be along the freelancing side, the selling a service, selling some sort of product.
And you talk about all that.
Yeah, to really accelerate that. Yeah.
Well, I keep coming back to this chat conversation I had with Carrie Oberbrunner, and I think he was like episode 48 on my show, and we talked about how we would love, like back in 2007, 2008 for you, back a few years ago for me, and people watching us right now or listening to us right now or in the future, they would love for it to be this light switch transition. Hey, I quit my job on Friday and I'm making big bucks on Monday working for myself. And it sounds like your story is it doesn't exactly work like that, and it is kind of this ramp up, and I can attest to that too. And as much as I want the people in my audience and people I'm coaching and who are my masterminds and things to see immediate results, because I think that builds momentum, it does. Depending on what you want to do, if you want to build and monetize your own brand or do the freelance thing, there's different strategies, but it is a process. And you're doing these case studies to talk about both, it seems, because you still do the freelance work. Do you need to do that anymore?
Yeah, I still do. As inquiries come in, I don't necessarily actively market it, but I do some proofreading, editing, like specifically for business books or nonfiction books. Do some freelance writing, almost on a requested basis. I had an article go live on thepennyhoarder.com, which is one of my favorite sites for side hustlers. It talks all about crazy like money making schemes, or money making or money saving tips and stuff. And so today's post is actually on Udemy as well, like kind of profiling some online course builders that have done really well with that. And here's my experience. Here's how you can get started. That sort of thing. So, yeah, it's all a fun part of the puzzle.
And I know you've done gigs on Fiverr. I read one of your posts. Geez, that might have been a year ago, Nick, where you said you made like $950 just busting your butt on doing Fiverr gigs, right? The website reviews or something, right?
Yeah, so I started on Fiverr. I interviewed a gentleman who goes by his screen name Anarcho Fighter on Fiverr, and his claim to fame was, "Hey, I have earned enough money in the past year on Fiverr to buy a house." And I think he lives like outside of Chicago, so like not in Nicaragua or someplace, but like in the U.S. And he kind of broke it down and explained, because I'd use Fiverr as a buyer all the time, like articles, graphics. Yep. All sorts of nonsense, but never considered putting it as a seller. Like, what can I sell? Because you're only going to get $4 after after they take their fee. And he's like, "Hey, man, it's all about the upsell. It's all about the gig extras."
Okay.
And so he said his average order was probably $25 at that time. And I spoke to him again recently, and he says probably over $50 now.
Wow.
And so how he has it set up is like, the $5 gig, the base level gig is some quick PDF delivery, video file delivery, audio file delivery. And then if you want to actually, engage my time, that's all going to be in the gig extras. So one of his was, like, I'll send you, the 7 steps to, the 7 steps that every autoresponder sequence must have or something. And then it was like, just a quick PDF file. And then in the gig extras, like, I will write message 1 for you. I will write message 2 for you. I will write the whole thing for you, and something like that.
So how is that not just selling an ebook for $5? How does that work with their terms and conditions?
And that's how I got started. I was like, fine, I'm going to test this out. If this guy can do it, I can do it. And I put out a couple different books on Fiverr, and one of them, and the prices were a little bit different, but one of them actually outsold Amazon for this 60-day period. And in fairness, it was not setting any bestseller records on Amazon or Fiverr. but like I was comparing the numbers, man, I actually sold more units, more copies, doing the PDF delivery over here on Fiverr. So then
you can
I
do that.
Yeah, totally. As long as you're not on KDP Select with Amazon, right? So as long as you haven't checked the box to say, hey, I'm exclusive with Amazon, you can sell your book wherever you want.
And Fiverr will let you do that. Okay. Can you automate that process? Can you set up some sort of autoresponder? Someone just paid me. Now I have their email and I'm going to automatically send out this PDF or with a link. Or do you have to go in and say, hey, dude, thanks for your purchase. What you bought is attached.
Yeah. So far, I haven't figured out how to automate it. So yeah, you do have to log in and you can, batch process it or whatever, but they haven't quite automated that yet. I imagine they will shortly. Like, hey, if somebody didn't order any of the gig extras, hey, just send them this file. And so after that, that's when I got brave and said, okay, this is kind of fun. Let me get brave and try out doing these like live video site reviews. This is the gig they eventually put on the homepage.
Yeah.
So I've been doing it for a few months, had collected some positive reviews, and just one morning woke up to an inbox just flooded with orders, and I was kind of freaking out. And I went to the incognito browser, went to the homepage, and I was like, oh, that explains it. There's my mug on the homepage. And so I really had to hustle to knock some of these out. The gig was I'll do a 5-minute site review of your
on video, right?
Yeah. So just turn on the screen recorder. No script, just say, hey, this is what I notice about SEO, usability, conversion, content, blah, blah, blah. Like, this is what, and people love that thing. And it was kind of crazy. And so the gig extra was like, hey, I'll take a deeper dive into your SEO. I'll take a deeper dive into your marketing. And then I added a book, like, hey, here's the small business website checklist book. If you want to add that, it was based on kind of like the things that kept coming up over and over again on these videos.
So I'm going to butt in for a second, Nick. Right, what you're saying, this is going to sound more negative than I want it to be. You made $1,000 basically in just a month, 954 if I remember correctly.
Yeah, whatever it was.
And this is where it gets kind of, I don't mean it this way, but with basically no talent. You didn't go to school for this. You didn't have to study for this. You offered a gig that legitimately provided value, but it's not something that you had to study for, to read a bunch of books for. You just gave people first impressions, leveraging all the knowledge of building all of these sites, because you and I have hopefully a little bit more savvy understanding of what we see when we go to a site than someone who's never built one before. But basically, you put it out there. You said, hey, I'm going to review this on whatever. If you paid for Camtasia, you would have paid for that 10 times over. If you did ScreenFlow or something like that, it would have paid for itself. But
yeah, I just used Screencast-O-Matic, and I sold it by, hey, I've been working online for 10 years, so there was an element to that I think appealed to people. But if you just put it out, a similar gig as like a user testing gig, like, hey, I'll be your guinea pig. Let me show me, like, give me a task to complete on your website, and I will, video record myself trying to walk through it. That might be an interesting one too, because that's really cheap user testing. Yeah.
So the Screencast-O-Matic.com. I'll put a link.
$15 a year for a free, a pro license.
Oh, okay. So it's not even all that expensive. So free, max recording time 15 minutes. They'll host it. For free, you don't get the editing tools, so you'd have to maybe get some practice. But,
yeah, and they put their little watermark down in the bottom when you have the free account.
Okay.
And actually, that's how I started. I totally didn't buy the pro version until I started getting more gigs.
Shoot, I start with free more times than I don't, and most of the time I would say it works, but there have definitely been some learning experiences. So the lesson for everybody out there is start with free and then grow, even if it's only $15 a year. Grow into these more premium solutions, and that's how we all get started. But so Screencast-O-Matic, but the point is you generated revenue and you did 5-minute review videos. Just from my own experience, that would take me about, if I were editing it, It would take me about 15.
No editing allowed.
Okay. So even less than 15 minutes to do those, you just upload them and send to YouTube, or how did you send the people their videos?
Yeah, I did unlisted YouTube videos.
Yep. That's what I do for almost everything. So just for everybody that's out there, that's an unlisted video. If they're private, you have to give access per email address. If they're public, they are indexed and searchable by anybody, but unlisted is the way to go. So that's a fantastic way. That was what, 2013, 2014, or are you still doing those on a regular basis?
That was spring of last year, so about 12 months ago. I've had that gig paused for the past couple months because we've been traveling. It's kind of tough to manage,
Perfect opportunity for a listener to come in. And if anybody likes Nick Loper, check out. I'm just kidding.
But yeah, I need to resume it because I've got a couple other Fiverr gig ideas. I'd like to. They let you have 20 different gigs, and each one of those is an opportunity to be found in their search results. It's a search engine, just like Amazon is, just like Udemy is, just like eBay is, right? And so every one of those gigs is an opportunity to be found in their search results. And so by not using all 20 of them, I'm leaving some exposure or potential exposure on the table there.
So how many side gigs do you have, or hustles or streams of income do you have today in April 2015? How many different paycheck sources did you get last month?
I don't know, 8 or 10.
Okay. Not as many as I thought it would be.
And most of these are quite small, but it is a very diversified thing.
Well, you have, from what I've seen, Nick, and I don't follow everything that you do, but of course we're friends on Twitter and Facebook and all those things. So I see what you're up to, but not nearly everything. But I've seen you do micro lending. I've seen you do, of course, Udemy and Fiverr. Did I just list 3 or 4?
That's 3. That's 3.
Did I already say the Amazon books?
Okay, we got 4. So I do the freelancing stuff. That's 5.
Are you taking sponsors on your show, on your podcast?
So I've done some kind of affiliate sponsors, referral sponsors. I haven't done any traditional CPM sponsorships yet.
Okay. Can you talk about affiliates? Because that's a big affiliate marketing is. And tell me where you agree or disagree on this, Nick. Affiliate marketing is, I'll make a bold statement, the easiest way to get into online business, or the cheapest?
I would say it's probably one of the easiest ways to monetize a website, because you don't need your own product. You can just link to somebody else's product and say, hey, this is what I use. This is something that's worth checking out. And that was how the shoe business made money. That's how I still have a couple other different affiliate sites out there that earn some revenue, some more than others. And that's how I've started to monetize Side Hustle Nation as well, through, people will come on the podcast, for example, and drop a ton of value. Probably the best example of this was Sean Marshall, who has an online marketing business, helping kind of home service companies, with their reputation management, their local SEO, their social media, all this stuff.
Okay.
And he, came on for half an hour, 45 minutes, like, hey, this is how I built this business. This is what I do. This is what happened when I got laid off my job and came home, and my wife was like, look, you are not getting another job. You're going to make this work. And I was like, wow, that's a really cool reaction for any wife to have. And then they up and moved to Mexico. They moved to Cozumel, Mexico, and did scuba diving and all this stuff, and did the whole running the business remotely thing. And then at the end of the show, he's like, by the way, I have a course on Udemy. It's called Clone My Business or something. And by the way, it's 70% off for your listeners. And so we did an affiliate deal with that, and it converted really, really well, because he had already built up some pretty amazing trust and credibility with the audience.
That's like you said, a great way to do that. In not that affiliate marketing is easy; it's a ton of work, but it's different work than creating a product that maybe nobody wants. You already have the proof of concept because people have that they're selling that product themselves. But the unboxing video is a great example of an affiliate opportunity. I'm really wanting to get the new Galaxy S6.
Okay.
I did what are you a iPhone person, Nick?
I'm an iPhone person.
Oh man, I just shut it down. Right. Now, one of my friends was talking about how had up until yesterday had a Windows phone, and my father-in-law has a Windows phone. And I'm just sitting there. They don't even compete. Anyway, if you did an unboxing video, and a lot of YouTubers will make money this way, they'll unbox it, say, hey, this is really great. I love this, but I don't like this. Here's some accessories that come with it. Here's what should have done. And, down in the comments, there's a link if you want to check out this product, and it's an Amazon link or Best Buy. If you're a business with enough traffic, you can even get affiliates with Best Buy. I'm sure smaller local retailers would have those kinds of affiliates too. But even if you're not just interested in doing electronics, books or online courses or all those other things are great ways to do it. And instead of creating that product, you're spending your time and using your mental or physical or virtual resources saying, this is what I like, this is what I don't like. Here's a review of the product. Click here. Here's 4 places that you can buy it. And they just pay you a percentage.
Right. And you think about, Pat Flynn is probably the best known affiliate example out there. It was 4 or 5 years before he ever created a product himself. And now he's got, his, breakthrough blogging course or whatever in his software. But, up until that point, it was all just on, the goodwill that he built with his readers, with his listeners, to the point where people were going out of the way. I went out of my way to go click specifically on his link for all of the insight and all the value that he's brought over the years, and so that's one way to do it. The product reviews. You think of like affiliate marketing maybe has a poor reputation online, like for get rich quick schemes and stuff. But you think some like Retail Me Not is probably the best known affiliate brand in the world. Like anytime you search for any coupon, Retail Me Not comes up, and that's an affiliate site. Something like TripAdvisor, any kind of travel aggregator site, Kayak's all going to be an affiliate model. What else is that? Something like Ebates, where they're going to give you cashback rebates and stuff like that for what you purchase. All these kind of well-known brands are all affiliate businesses.
I mean, even if you look at what Walmart is, they don't build the PlayStation, they don't make the TVs or the mattresses. They have their own products, but they're just they're probably selling space on the shelves, but also they're reselling, and it's not quite affiliates. But we don't have to create every product that we sell or endorse. Off the top of your head, you have a few affiliates that everybody. I've been thinking about writing a blog post about this, but do you have 3 or 4 affiliates that are low barrier to entry that you think everybody should be a part of, or maybe you don't think everybody should do that?
Yeah, we obviously don't promote anything you don't believe in, that you don't, that you don't promote anything like just for the sake of making money that isn't going to serve your audience, right?
That'll probably actually backfire. I would say from my experience, but I haven't really had that happen terribly, but it did not work, and I felt like it diluted my message and what I wanted to have people do anyway. So keep going.
But probably Amazon is where I would start. Like they sell almost every product in the world, and they don't pay a huge percentage wise, but they convert really, really well. And so that one does really well. And then the next tier beyond that would be trying to find the products or services or software that aren't going to be reviewed on Amazon, right? Like if you have an inside look at some specific software that you use in your business, like that's the perfect opportunity to tell people about that. And I don't know, that's a difficult one. Like, because it's like, are you blogging? Like, are you a food blogger that's talking about, this is the video editing software I use? And it might not always be an audience fit unless it's specific to, making food. I don't know.
I would say hosting is another one. Everybody who has websites is going to have hosting of some sort. Those are usually pretty good. I didn't make money with Bluehost for a long time. I don't think I ever made money with iPage because I almost felt guilty about promoting iPage because I didn't really like them. But see, that's an example of not really standing behind the product, even though it's not yours. But I would agree with Amazon. What else can we think of, Nick?
Just whatever else that you're using in your business. So like I mentioned, like Screencast-O-Matic, and I don't know if they have an affiliate program before. What else? Like different different courses on Udemy that might come into play, like Lead Pages. I finally started to make a little bit of affiliate money from Lead Pages because I've had some really, really exciting results with those guys, even though I was like a very reluctant customer. I was like, I don't want to sign up for another expensive monthly subscription.
No kidding.
But gosh, it works. I can't fault them. It works good.
What were you using before Lead Pages?
Nothing. Just Aweber or SumoMe.
Okay.
Yeah, and still use that too.
I was convinced. I was shown a few holes in the look of my business last fall, and I ended up buying Optimized Press, and I love their software, landing pages, membership pages. They have the membership plugin piece as well to protect your stuff, and I highly recommend them and apply to be an affiliate with them. And
there you go. ellerywells.com/optimizepress.
Exactly. Or OP. They're the first. I have both, but they're the first one that I didn't do the full name in Pretty Link. I don't know why I didn't start off with Optimized Press. Although it's long.
Yeah. And OP works. Here we go.
So it's both, but with Pretty Link, I don't want to rattle off a bunch of affiliate links, but like the Zoom, my Zoom H4n/H4n. We can turn all kinds of affiliate links and swap them out too. If we want to recommend a different resource, with Pretty Link, it's a free plugin. I don't know if I'm an affiliate for Pretty Link Pro. I upgraded to their software, and I'm kind of glad I did because they split test links. I don't know if you knew that.
Oh, okay. I was always wondering what the Pro version got you, because I was like, man, I've made hundreds of links in the light version and it all works just fine. I don't know.
It functions the same, but it'll put a little module, when you're writing a blog post and it has like your tags, your categories, and everything on the right side of your page. Well, now there's a new module there that's Pretty Link, and you can type in the Pretty Link right there. But then you can split test multiple links by giving the beginning URL and then the destination URL, and it will track which link leads most to the destination URL.
Okay,
if that makes sense. So
is everyone familiar? Everyone is familiar with what Pretty Link does.
Can we get a nod? Bean, Bean knows. I see him on video. I don't think anybody else has their video turned on. Yeah, nobody else does. We got a couple phones, which is kind of cool. Okay. Pretty Link takes an SEO optimized link. For example, I'm going to make one up. ellerywells.com/quotes from Napoleon Hill. That's a very optimized link. You would search, if you wanted to find quotes from Napoleon Hill, you would go to Google and type in quotes from Napoleon Hill. Well, if I don't want all of that in a link and I want to make it a nice little link on a Facebook image or on Twitter or something, or something that I remember to share, you can just go to /Napoleon Hill. And that's a little, and by the way, it SEO optimized our quotes from Napoleon Hill. So it takes all of that, makes it into something easy to remember. That's how I know /H4N. That'll redirect to a long, complicated, tagged with my code to Amazon. So that's what Pretty Link does.
Yeah, I do it all the time on the podcast. Hey, this is sidehustlenation.com/104 or 104, and the actual title of the episode would be, I don't even know, like how to make money as a freelancer, dash, 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 dash.
Exactly. So we get sidetracked. So thanks for allowing me to ask those kinds of affiliate questions, Nick. You mentioned before, though, that you had between 8 to 10 paychecks or streams of revenue. Which one is your most successful? Which one's your least successful?
So this is the challenge because it varies month to month, and it's kind of a little bit of a game of side hustle whack-a-mole. Like when the Fiverr thing was blowing up, like that was probably number one. When the Udemy course launched, that was the number one. Some months it's the affiliate program or the affiliate businesses. Some months it's the self-publishing stuff like does really well. It's just, and the challenge is to keep them all going. And over time, the percentage of income from Side Hustle Nation has grown. And so long term, that's probably going to be the biggest piece of the pie. But I've got to keep putting out these different case studies and these different, these other different projects, just to be able to fuel the content there and be able to talk intelligently about, all these different ways to earn side hustle money.
Do you ever wish you had one or two or three bigger streams of income and less than 8 or 10?
I know. I was talking about this with my mastermind group, and they're like, "Nick, you ever read The One Thing?" And I was like, "Okay, I'll read that." But it's kind of fun. I think it would be. I don't know. So I had The One Thing. It was the shoe business for a lot of years, and that was great. But it can also disappear.
Yeah.
So try and diversify a little bit and see what happens. And so, like, not all of these are big. Not all of these demand a ton of time. So it's just trying to keep these going. It's fun. Like, I definitely enjoy the challenge of starting something new and trying something new out, rather than I'm going to become the go-to guy for selling on Amazon or whatever it is.
Well, if you do focus on, and I've heard of the book, I forgot the author's name. I've not read it myself, but it's difficult for me, Nick. Sometimes I say focus, figure out one thing and pursue it until the end. And I agree with that, because you'll learn how to start, how to grow, and then how to wrap it up or automate it or set it out to sell it or put it down or whatever it is. But start it and finish something. But at the same time, we have this tendency to, if we start something and it doesn't take off or it fails, we think everything that we are going to do will fail, or worse, we think we are a failure. And I like your model because it's constant testing, at least from the outside anyway, and it seems to be, after talking to you for 45 minutes or so, it's constant testing. It's applying what works over here to over there to where it could also work. Do you feel like you've gotten yourself into this pattern of starting up new things and trying to generate and test new things, and so therefore you have to continue to do it? Or, I mean, because that's who I am. These side hustles. That's Nick Loper. That's who I am. Or do you want to continue going down that road? Where do you sit on that?
Yeah, I don't mind going down that road. It's been a ton of fun so far. So hopefully can keep it going and improve the batting average over time, right? So, we talked about the shoe business, and there was a bunch of other sites that never took off, and some of them were expensive to start up. And that, I think you bring up the point, like, if I start a podcast, for example, how do I know when that fails? Like, does it? I don't know. Like, it was just something that I do now. Like, did I just commit myself to a new weekly thing, like, for the rest of time? And so something like that can be a little bit more difficult to define. But some of these other projects do have a definitive start and end date. And some of the cool things, like a Kindle book, like a course, that's reasonably evergreen. It can sit out there, and after your initial launch phase, hopefully you can earn some residual income, over the next few months or years too.
Nick, how do you, at what point do you determine what that business failure is? You mentioned you had a project that did 300 over a year, another one versus 3,500. Is 300 enough? Does it cross the chief side hustler threshold of businesses to keep around? I know there's people that, oh man, I'd love to make $300. What's your cutoff? How do you evaluate the viability of a project you should continue?
Yeah, it's definitely like I'm not going to turn those dollars away by any means, but you kind of learn from that launch. Say, hey, okay, how come this one didn't take off? And like, what can I do differently the next time? And it's just an asset that's out there, right? So people can still go and find it and buy it, and that's great. So there's no sense in like pulling it down. It doesn't cost anything to maintain. So yeah, I don't have any problem with that.
I was so busy listening, I didn't have something else to say. But if you've got 8 things bringing in money, even if none of them are huge, or a couple of them are and a couple of them aren't, if you had times 50, that's $400 a month. That's a pretty nice boost, right? 8 times $50, $400.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
There you go. It's a little bit early. It's early in California, which is where you are. I mean, not that early, but
not that early. I've been doing my walking. It's okay.
But you don't have to make a whole bunch of money from one thing, and your first side hustle or your first project doesn't have to be the one that you retire on. In fact, I wrote a post. I don't know if I did a podcast episode about it, but it came out of a mastermind meeting where you need to create your first product or your first $10 product, because it's like that book that you could hand over to somebody or email somebody, or it's like your digital business card or something
Mm-hmm.
like that. It's getting people in the door and introduced to your business. I can't release the episode of last month's experts call with John Dennis. My Yeti here was dying, and my audio is just bad, and I couldn't edit it enough. But one of the things that he said about his autoresponder series and what we do with our blog and podcast, Nick, he called it an indoctrination process. That's kind of a weird term to use, but I kind of like it, and I think it has enough meaning to where we can use that as the $10 product, the emails, and those other things that we can get people to know who Nick is, what he's about, and so that we can know, like, and trust him, right?
The indoctrination process. I like that.
It's weird though, right?
So I send something like, your first few messages will be like, here are 4 side hustles you can start, this weekend. So that's kind of like a very quick, actionable thing. And then the next one will address like what happens if you don't have any ideas. Like here's 6 questions to ask, to figure out the right side hustle for you. And then, more on the indoctrination side is like, here are the 10 commandments of Side Hustle Nation. And it's like,
do you have that?
Yeah. That's one of the emails.
That's awesome. How many emails are in your autoresponder?
Oh my gosh, right now, like 20 or something. It's I need to revisit it.
I got into autoresponders, or really did it more professionally in January, and I went with the Get Response, wrote a blog post about how to do all that stuff. But they are a great way to keep in front of your audience. I mean, we've all gotten those emails where like, who is this person? What is this website?
Yeah,
and autoresponders. You don't have to have a whole lot, but even just once a week saying, hey, it's Ellery. Hey, it's Nick. Just not really checking in, but I found this resource. I thought you might like it.
Yeah. So how often do you have yours set to go out?
I adopted Tim Page talked about it, Podcast Movement, last year.
Oh, okay. Yes.
One every 3 days for 5, and then drop it to a week. And I basically have that. And I guess I have out, I don't know what the number is, but I have it out through like 45 days, I think.
Okay.
But then I also, I have really put a lot of effort time and money and effort in every kind of way about segmenting my list. So I actually have close to 20 different lists in Get Response. So, and some of them roll up into others, and then those even roll up into the master list. So the master list that everybody's on, there's that out through, I think, 45, 50, 60 days. But then there's also people that are interested in specifically blogging. And here are some blogging tips. Here are some podcasting tips. Online, some of those kinds of things as well. And again, some of those lists are empty because those people have been migrated to the next one. It's a somewhat complicated. It's not as complicated after I wrote it down. I actually took pen to paper and mapped it out. But that gave me a ton of clarity.
Look at Get Response. It sounds like a lot more functionality than I have in Aweber. So
I actually tried Aweber for a month. You get the 30 days for free or whatever, and I did not like having to get their blessed approval to move people from one list to another. That bugged the crap out of me. Okay. You can automate it when people sign up. When someone joins this, make them join this, and this. But that means I had to have every list that I would ever want from now until the end of time created, or submit a trouble ticket and ask for their permission to add people to another list. And that bugs me. And honestly, I think Aweber, it looks a little bit antiquated.
Yeah. No, they've made some adjustments to their interface in the last month or so, but yeah, it's a little bit outdated compared to some of these other ones. So ElleryWells.com/GetResponse.
Yeah, actually, and we'll both make.
I'll plug it for you.
We'll both get $30 if anybody wants to try it out. I think you may have to actually sign up to get the $30, but that's 2 months worth. Which Aweber is a little bit more expensive. That's one of those tools, Nick, where I'm sure you would agree. Don't get caught up on the difference between $15 and $20 a month. Go the one that you like, but the one that I like actually happens to be a little bit cheaper, and I like it. I have very few complaints, but to wrap this part of the conversation up, I found that even Infusionsoft at $1,000 to $2,000 to start up and $250 or $300 a month wouldn't do everything that I wanted it to do. I wanted to have all kinds of conditional stuff going on. If you click this, go here. If you click that, you're on this list. All that stuff. And Infusionsoft does that a little bit. Get Response does it. Aweber does not do it. MailChimp might. And all of those are /Aweber/MailChimp. Again, the beauty of Pretty Link, everybody. I found that there is no single tool to rule them all. Nick, what was the last movie you saw?
We watched The Hunt for Red October last night.
That's a solid movie.
It's a classic.
It is. What was it on TV? It was
on Netflix. Like we were just scrolling through, watch. I was like, man, I haven't seen this. I don't know if I ever had seen it all the way through. But I was like, oh, that's a good flick.
We had it recorded a couple years ago, and the recording ended with about 20 minutes left. So I think I've seen the whole thing, but Ashley and I together, we have seen all but the last 20 minutes, and we looked everywhere to be able to find it and watch it. But that is a solid movie. Speaking of Netflix, a lot of buzz about Daredevil. Is that your genre, the superhero? If so, have you checked out Daredevil?
I'm not into the superhero movies. My wife loves that stuff. I can't get into it.
Has she watched Daredevil?
No.
Well,
not I know of.
I think it's you love it or hate it. I watched, I think, 2.5 episodes, and it just wasn't all that special. So
she's not into it. She'll be all about like the Avengers movie that's coming out, or I don't know. There's probably they make 1 million of these things.
I hear that. I guess the Avengers 2 is already out in parts of the world. There's screenings. I heard it already made a couple $100 million.
Jeez.
I'm kind of jealous of those people who saw that, but because I'm looking forward to it. But I don't understand how you're not into that. What are you into? What kind of movies besides U.S. versus Russian submarines?
Just like dumb comedies, or actually kids movies. We'll see every Pixar movie.
Our friends with kids do. They don't watch the movies that we watch, but they will have seen Frozen 1,000 times in all of the animated ones as well.
Anything Pixar is generally pretty good. I think the last one we saw in the theater was Big Hero 6. Is that Pixar or just, I don't know.
I think it was Disney.
That's a good flick too.
So Nick, what's the best tip or piece of advice that you can give people out there? Maybe they're still in their day jobs like you and I were, you 5 or 7 or 8 years ago, me 2 or 3 years ago, or a year and a half ago. When people are trying to figure out maybe what side hustle to pursue, which one to leave behind, do they go all in on one? Do they pick a handful and spread out their time? Talk to that person. What is one tip or piece of advice that you can give that person who is just starting out?
When just starting out, I think it does make sense to go all in on one, but go in with the mindset of an experimenter or a scientist and say, hey, I'm going to test this out. If it doesn't work, I'm okay with that because it's an experiment. Like it very well might not work. And then I think that lessens the sting of failure when it comes. And then, if it does work, great. And if it doesn't, hey, I'm going back to the drawing board. I'm going to try the next thing on my list.
Brilliant advice. Think of it like the scientist going into the lab, and you'll be more objective about what works, what doesn't work. And I wish I had taken that advice when I first started, because you get emotionally attached to this kind of stuff sometimes, and that emotional attachment doesn't always, get you to where you need to go. So, Nick, thanks for coming on the show today. It's been a pleasure. If someone wanted to connect with you, check out more about what you're doing with Side Hustle Nation and join the community, where can we send them?
You bet. Come on by sidehustlenation.com/ideas. We'll get you a monster list of side hustle ideas you're looking how to get started. And I would love to have you tune into the show, to the Side Hustle Show podcast. So probably best place to get it is sidehustlenation.com.
Awesome. Again, thank you, Nick, and wish you all the best.
You bet. Talk to you soon.
If you have a side hustle that you're excited about, or one that you think you might be excited about, send it to me. I'd love to hear what it is. I'd love to be excited with you. Shoot me a note, Ellery@ElleryWells.com. But I would love to hear what you're up to. I'd love to know more about your side hustle and maybe help you out however I can. I do want you to be successful and will help you however you can. If masterminds are something that you are interested in, whether you want to be in one with me or not, you absolutely have to have a mastermind. In fact, you might be in one already and not know it. If you have a personal board of directors that you're going to help you make decisions and have wise counsel, you might have an unofficial mastermind, but the official masterminds take it to the next level. If that sounds like you, go to howtostartamastermind.com. I think you'll like what you see there. And let me know if that's what you like, or if you want more material, if you want more information, let me know, and I'll be happy to send that over to you, howtostartamastermind.com. That link, the idea web, so that you can repurpose your content and get more yardage out of every single blog post and podcast episode, all those things, you can find them all at empoweredpodcast.com/84. Thank you for listening. I'm your host, Ellery Wells. Go do something awesome, and we'll see you next week. I appreciate you.